evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight I'll bring to you the great Vocasum versus Communal debate in New York City, which is resonating in New Delhi. Let's start with this picture on your screens. The iconic Statue of Liberty, a symbol of freedom and democracy, has been turned into a burqa-clad meme. This is the MAGA, Make America Great Again Meltdown in New York, where the son of acclaimed filmmaker Mira Nair, 33-year-old Zoran Mamdani, is set to win the mayoral polls. Why is the Statue of Liberty covered in a burqa? The right wing accuses Mamdani of being intolerant, bigoted, and as President Trump says, 100% commie lunatic. Trump added that we have had radical lefties before, but this is ridiculous. He looks terrible and he's not very smart. Well, that's a little extreme, but interestingly, despite his Indian ancestry, he's now turned into a controversial figure in India as well. He's a known Modi beta and has created a narrative of Islamophobia in India. But he also calls himself the worst nightmare of Trump. When it comes to the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, he wants him arrested for war crimes, calls him a war criminal. But guess who Mamdani idolizes? Omar Khalid. Yes, the alleged mastermind of the Delhi riots, who is currently in jail. Let's tell you how Mira Nair's son in his post has singled out India. In 2020, Mamdani led a hate mob demonizing Hindus. After the Ayodhya verdict, he quipped that Hindu nationalists will today celebrate the atrocity. He also raised the Islamophobia bogey, saying that the Indian government is neglecting brutal violence against Muslim Indians. CAA will strip Muslims of citizenship. Clearly, he doesn't hold back, nor do his detractors. Back home, actor and Lok Sabha MP Kangana Ranaut says that Mamdani sounds more Pakistani than Indian. Congress veteran Abhishek Manu Singhvi says that when Zoran Mamdani opens his mouth, Pakistan's PR team takes the day off. And that is a rare occasion when Abhishek Manu Singhvi and Kangana Ranaut are on the same page. But the Congress also has its own set of wokes. Digvijay Singh tags Rahul Gandhi in a post and says that Mamdani's campaign is an example for Congress. Can we be courageous? Can we raise our voice against injustice? Watch how the BJP has now attacked the Congress for hailing an anti-Indian, while its alliance partners say stop distracting.
Any sensible person will call a lunatic, like what Donald Trump said about this. Standing with Mamdani, Congress party has proven yet again that anybody who's anti-India, anti-Hindu, Congress will support that.
बीजेपी मुझे लगता है देश में सबसे बड़ी जिम्मेदारी के पद पे बैठी है. वो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट, एजुकेशन डेवलपमेंट, सामाजिक जो डेवलपमेंट है वो बीजेपी को फोकस उस पे करना चाहिए. बीजेपी का फोकस लगातार विपक्ष के दलों पे रहता है, उन पे अटैक रहता है. मुझे नहीं लगता है कि एक अच्छी सरकार और एक सत्ता में बैठी पार्टी का इस तरह का कोई दायित्व होता है कि वो विपक्ष पे लगातार सवाल उठाए.
So ladies and gentlemen, the legitimate question we are asking on the Newshour tonight. Backing Mamdani, is that 100% woke or communal? That's the question and that's the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the Newshour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight on the Newshour, Suhail Seth, columnist, joining me live. Troy Blackwell, former advisor to the Biden-Harris administration. Also joining me this evening is Sanjay Jha, author from Mumbai, Sushant Sareen, senior fellow at the ORF, Kushal Mehra, author and podcaster, and Matt Klink, Republican strategist, on the show tonight. Matt Klink, let me first ask you, Mamdani as mayor of New York, is arrest of Netanyahu now imminent were he to land at JFK?
Well, there's a reason why we run these elections, is that you have to run them and win them. And just because Mr. Mamdani appears to have won the Democratic primary in New York City. Depending upon what happens in November, a lot could play out. He is the clear front runner, but there's a reason why they play the game.
Well, Suhail Seth, let me ask you, how good does it work for India to have somebody like Mamdani, who is literally a bigot, knows nothing about India, doesn't know how our courts rule here, but talks about the Ayodhya verdict, talks about the Prime Minister, talks about Hindus as a whole. I want to ask you, is that good news? Are we back to the far left, call it woke, call it communal, call it maybe ridiculous at one level?
So tell me, Navika, you're very well informed. Who's the mayor of Gurugram? Sushant, who's the mayor of Gurugram, since you live in Gurugram? Who's the mayor of Gurugram? Who's the mayor of Delhi? We don't know, but we know who Mamdani is.
Mira Nair's son.
No. So that's an unfair question to ask. About the New York mayor without knowing who the mayor in our backyard is. A.B. Mamdani has been elected by the Democrats as their nominee. He's still not the mayor of New York. He's been elected as the Democratic candidate for New York's mayoral election. Surely, Navika, he's playing to an agenda that he believes will get him the nomination. The comment actually, which you rightly made, is a comment on the electors or the electorate within New York. Mamdani is not bothered about you or me. Only we are seemingly bothered about him. You see, he's not bothered about me, Sanjay Jha.
I'm bothered about anybody who abuses India. You may not be anybody who abuses India. The Prime Minister, who's also popularly elected by Indians, if he abuses him, I have a problem with it. Don't you?
Exactly. But many people in our country used to abuse the Prime Minister. The leader of opposition's mother once called him whatever she did. Did it matter? He's Prime Minister of India, doing a great job. My advice is the Zoran Mamdani issue has taken more airtime than it deserves for only two reasons. Number one, you're absolutely right. In your mind, he is this or he is that. But the fact is, he's won the election. He's won the nomination. Second, let me tell you, Navika, and I forget the name of the gentleman from overseas, who spoke first. It is very clear that it is actually a shot in the arm. It is a shot in the arm for the Democratic Party, because even they didn't believe that a socialist, left of center, a person who abhors capitalism would be elected. But the story doesn't end there. Now let me tell you what is going to happen. Bill Ackman and other multi-billionaires have decided to sponsor and pump in money for either Eric Adams or Andrew Cuomo if they stand as independent. Eric Adams will stand as an independent. We then have to worry about who the Republican candidate will be. So I'm saying the story isn't over. So all of us, and as you rightly said, if someone abuses my country, but a caravan, when it's moving, there are dogs that bark, but the caravan doesn't stop for every barking dog. So if you believe that he's irrelevant to India, doesn't know India, and isn't supposed to know India, we shouldn't care. Because I'll tell you one thing, New York, the DNA of New York can never change.
No, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way, because Suhail said, in September, there is the UNGA that is held in New York. And Matt Klink, tell me if I'm wrong, when heads of states land there, and we have a mayor over there who proclaims from rooftops that, people like Netanyahu who are war criminals should be arrested.
The elections are in November.
Oh, come on, next year.
How will he be mayor in September?
Next year, Suhail, come on, stop splitting hair. You want to support Mamdani, fair, do that. That's your right. But UNGA happens every year. You must know that. But Matt Klink, my question to you is, bizarre. I won't pay for my coffee. Nobody should pay for their coffee. Is this, somebody who wants to turn, the world into into a far left communist regime. What are we talking about here? Is this a modern age serious player?
Yeah, this is anything but a benefit for the Democratic Party. I think you're already seeing even the home state senators, both Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand, are already they applauded him for his win, but they're trying to distance himself, and so has Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, look at this gentleman's positions. He wants to abolish ICE, abolish the New York Police Department, abolish prisons, abolish medical bills, abolish private health insurance, ban all guns, legalize sex work, have safe injection sites, end cash bail, decriminalize drug possession, have government-run grocery stores, end sentencing enhancements. This is the type of thing that if he does win, that and the gentleman who preceded me is correct that ultimately this is the New York voters. If the New York voters are foolish enough to elect a person like Mamdani, then they get the government that they deserve. Those that can afford to leave will leave. They'll go to Florida, they'll go to Texas, they'll go to other places. But again, you're looking at a primary election with roughly 9% turnout, very, very low turnout. The people that voted for Mamdani were, ironically enough, they were wealthy whites. So the interesting part will be in the general election, who runs, as was said earlier. Eric Adams is going to run as an independent. Cuomo hopefully will not run. He's already lost the Democratic primary. And then there's a Republican in the race, but Republican voters only comprise roughly 11% of the electorate in New York City. If that guy drops out and it's a one-on-one race, I think ultimately Eric Adams has a decent shot of being reelected. But if Mamdani is elected, he will create some very interesting problems for the National Democratic Party that they will have to either embrace or distance themselves from. But he will be a topic of conversation for every candidate running in 2026.
Navika, he'll be the Arvind Kejriwal for New York.
So let me get in Troy Blackwell.
No, he'll be the Arvind Kejriwal of New York.
Troy Blackwell.
He will be a conjure who will do Siapa and Siapa. Trust me.
Yes.
Okay, but you seem to like him. But Troy Blackwell.
No, see, again, I don't like or dislike anyone except you, Sushant, Sanjay Jha, Kushal on the panel. I'm only telling you it's a New York issue. Let them deal with it. हमारे घर में तो काफी मुद्दे हैं डील करने के लिए. बेगानी शादी.
Let me jump in here.
Troy, let's hear what you have to say.
Yes. So I am a New York City voter.
Troy Blackwell.
Yes. So I am a New York City voter. I am a Democrat. So I think we need to level set here. First, Mr. Mamdani won the primary. That's just step one of this process. We do have to go through the general election. In my lifetime, a lot of people tend to think of New York City as, a bastion of liberalism. But as a Democrat, I will say most of the mayors in my lifetime have been conservative or more to the right, right? When I was born, I'm 34 years old. When I was born, we had a first Black mayor, Mayor Dinkins. I was born his last year. After that, we had 2 terms of Rudy Giuliani. We had 3 terms of Bloomberg. So Mayor Bill de Blasio, for many people like myself who are in their mid-30s, was the first Democratic mayor that we had in my lifetime, right? In addition, we've also had Republican governors, such as Governor Pataki, who was very popular in New York at that particular time. So the general election is going to be competitive. Today is the deadline for those who are going to run as independents. So Cuomo has to make a decision today whether or not he's going to stick in the race. I do know that there are donors who are asking him to step down to not run in the general election. That way they can have fully support Mayor Eric Adams. So I do think it's going to be competitive between Eric Adams and Zoran Mamdani. The Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, is not going to have a chance. I believe he's ran for mayor twice before and has lost. Also, New York City, in terms of registration, Democrats outnumber Republicans 8-1 in New York City. So it's going to be really hard to do. But what I will say is going to make a difference in this race is how the out-of-boroughs vote.
Aren't they just too polarizing?
I don't know. To some he is, to some he's not. I think it depends on who you talk to. So in terms of foreign policy, most New Yorkers that I know are not talking about the foreign policy part. His comments in regards to Hindus or the Jewish community, I think that has been very set in a very specific group. A lot of people that I have seen who ranked Mr. Mamdani as number one have been focused on freezing the rent. There is a housing crisis in New York. He's speaking to economic populism. So people are focused on that. That's his number one sell is freezing the rent and free buses. And that has gotten a lot of support. So in terms of the demographics,
economic
he's done
populism
well
with governments running grocery stores sounds extremely promising, coming from a country that actually stands on market economy and free enterprise as their, basic cornerstone. But Sanjay Jha, of course, the Congress party in India must love everybody, who abuses the Prime Minister because somebody else doing the opposition's work always comes in handy. But this time you have a divergent opinion. Abhishek Manu Singhvi says, he's Pakistan's PR and therefore bad news for India. But Digvijay Singh thinks he's an icon for the Congress. Where do you stand?
No, I will tell you where I stand. Firstly, my good friend Abhishek and Kangana Ranaut are on the same side, so my great commiserations for my friend Mr. Singhvi there. But I would like to make a broad. I would like to make a broader point. Number one, I think we are being rather, I would say, specious in terms of making very stringent observations on a democratic verdict passed in the New York mayoral poll. Here is the truth. The truth is that for people who are upset, and I think a lot of people from the right wing, including the Republicans in the United States, are very upset with his win because end of day, what has he said, which is shocking them? He is challenged the fact that what the American foreign policy has been on Gaza, he's called it as a support for genocide. He stood up for Palestinian human rights. Now, let me tell you, this is not just his view. This is the view of the International Criminal Court. This is the view of the United Nations Secretary General. If two of the most eminent institutions have said that, and America continues to railroad those views, how can you hold Zoran responsible for saying what he's saying? There are people who have a view on it. The very fact that the boroughs of New York have voted for Zoran, who was, by the way, not even in the race, he was in single digits when the contest began, tells you that the public perception is shifting. I also understand why a lot of people in India are very deeply perturbed, because he's raised the issues of the Gujarat pogrom. And he's used very strong words against Prime Minister Modi and Benjamin Netanyahu, who are both poster boys of the right wing. And they have every right to feel, kind of miffed. But that's democracy, right? There is a man who's won the election, and in all probability, with due respect to my friend from the Republican Party from the United States, if you look at the numbers, I mean, he's a clear front runner, whoever is nominated from the Republican side. But here is the truth, Navika, that we cannot ignore. That end of day is talking about affordable housing or giving free buses in an America that, by the way, is now become the poster boy of economic inequality. The fact remains that America today is polarized, not just socially, but even economically, which is why he's getting the support. I think the gentleman from the Republican Party has to concede that today...
Sanjay Jha, you eulogizing democratic process, in America, but forgetting to actually talk about it within India, especially when Rahul Gandhi has a problem every time, really makes me wonder on what your words really mean. Sushant Sareen, really? Sanjay Jha talking about democracy there, and what about back home? And everybody is asking the question, why are we worried? Why should we not be worried? Are we not living in a world that is interconnected? Are we not, people who have given Mira Nair, hits after hits when she's put her creative work out here? Her son is standing there abusing India. Should we not have a view on it, when he abuses everything about India? Really?
Where is he?
So, Navika, I have a couple of points.
Criticize Mr. Modi. He hasn't abused India.
What Suhail was saying. I don't know the mayor of Gurgaon or even Delhi because the two positions are not comparable. The mayor of New York is a far more powerful person, has a lot more powers than what the mayor of Delhi or Gurgaon or Manesar or any of the other places in India have. So that is point number one. Point number two is that, look, New York is a kind of a microcosm of the United States. So if something happens in the most powerful city of the world, and we've seen what has happened in London, for example, under Sadiq Khan. There is a certain interest globally in what happens in New York. Now, if New York wants to go back to what India was in the 1970s, where you had rent control acts, which meant that you couldn't get a house out here on rent. You had Russian shops, which fueled corruption and which created all kinds of scarcity. We have seen the worst of what these characters call democratic socialism. And we know it doesn't work. It spawns corruption. Sanjay Jha might want to be nostalgic about those days and might be yearning for those days. But people like us who have suffered the indignities of socialism, I don't think any of us want that back. That's point number three. Point number four is that, it also shows how the American electoral system can be gamed. Kushal is out here. This is the same thing that the Khalistani thugs have done in Canada. They game the nomination system and get the nomination, and then the party is willy-nilly supposed to back them, or the party voters back them, and that is how they infiltrate the political system. And something similar seems to have happened in New York also. At the same time, it is all very seductive to give these slogans of freebies, bring down prices, all of it. You don't have a clear plan of how to do it. And that's quite clear. And as Suhail very correctly says, this guy is Kejriwal on steroids, right? And we've seen what has happened in Delhi. We've seen how Delhi, kind of what Sheila Dikshit did for Delhi, correct, and how Kejriwal dismantled everything good that Sheila Dikshit did in Delhi. And we haven't found a Sheila Dikshit since. So we have seen it. And yes, we are commenting because that character commented on us, right? Otherwise, I don't give a damn. For all I care, they can go to hell. They can elect whichever stupid woke character they want to. And I can wish socialism on them and the destruction of socialism on anybody who wants it, who yearns for it. But the point is that when he says that there's not a single Gujarati Muslim left, what is he doing? He's demonizing the Hindu community. He is spreading lies and blatant lies. And the guy, he's such a low-life pig. He does not have the courage to denounce the people who were openly abusing the Hindu community when he was standing up out there. He did not have the courage to do that. So the point is that when he comments on my country, then I have a right to comment on him. Frankly, otherwise, I don't have any skin in the game. It's an American problem. And this is an American problem which they have themselves created.
Not just that. His poster boy is Umar Khalid.
They're stupid liberalism.
Sushant Sareen, his poster boy is Umar Khalid. So you're very right when you say about Khalistanis gaming the system.
What does Kushal have?
No, it's not our problem, but certainly Kushal Mehra. But Kushal Mehra, when he uses, Bollywood songs to even attract, some of, the immigrant community out there, if India is so far out, why even, use those songs and use your so-called Indian origins and talk about it? Well, at least at least till the current regime is here, don't talk about India? Or, at least when you talk about facts in India, all Gujarati Muslims are gone and all Hindus are being demonized. Is that kosher for somebody to do? And is it okay because it's happening in New York, we should just pretend nobody said this and not be outraged?
So good evening, everyone. Before I start, I want to remind everyone Kishori Pednekar is the mayor of Mumbai. Long live Mumbai, and she has no powers.
Good Googling. You got good internet. Very good.
Sohail, I knew it before because I have run a campaign to empower the mayor of Mumbai. So thank you very much. Ask Milind Devra. So that's a separate story. But on the Mamdani issue, it's very interesting. On one hand, we are talking about him abusing India. On the other hand, the Indian consulate in New York invited him in April to have a Eid celebration. So I don't know. I think the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing clearly on the Indian side also. Here we are taking up, we are having a problem rightfully where the Prime Minister of India is abused by a primary candidate of some city in America. I don't know why, but fair enough. But then the first question that should have been asked by the Indian media is to the India in New York handle that invited this very person in New York to have a Eid celebration where he is waxing eloquently about his so-called Indian origins. So I don't understand what is happening. And, the MEA has had a record in that sense that when the Honorable Prime Minister of India was interviewed by arguably one of the biggest podcasters in the world, Lex Friedman, I barely saw India in New York, India in Ottawa tweeting about the Prime Minister's interview. You had Donald Trump retweeting the Prime Minister's interview with Lex Friedman. You had Chinese media talking about Prime Minister Modi's interview. But the Indian consulate handles did not have the time to do that. So I think the discussion should be, why are we concerned about it? Is because our own consulates invite these people to functions. So that should be the primary focus, in my opinion. We live in a globalized world. To say that what have we got to do with New York? Well, what has a New Yorker got to do with what's happening in India? The Canadians have Schrodinger's foreign interference, where everything is foreign interference as per Canadians. But then suddenly their MPs will talk about Indian matters. So these things have to be discussed. We live in a global world where some cat in New York is stuck under a burrow or somewhere, and then the whole news cycle is about that cat. Or something is, an unfortunate child is stuck in a well in India, and the whole world is talking about it. We live in the global world. Whatever gets clicks will be discussed. Mamdani right now is the flavor of the season. We will pass on to some other mayor.
Well, but Sushant Sareen, while it's true, why should we bother about a mayor of New York? That also not somebody who's won so far, but just won the primaries to be the candidate. But the fact is, he happens to be Mira Nair's son. And Mira Nair, though she's lived abroad, she is an NRI, the fact is that she's also used her Indian origins for the kind of cinema that she's done. And not only is he Mira Nair's son, he also talks about his Indian origins, sings Bollywood songs, but we should not speak about him. But the MEA, a little gap in that. How do you respond to that charge by Kushal?
No, as far as Mira Nair is concerned, she was the peddler of poverty porn. And that sells very well in the US, where rich people feel pained to see this, and then they want to open their purses and sell it to pay for it. So that is as far as Mira Nair is concerned. And Navika, frankly speaking, I don't care for any Indian who is no longer an Indian. And many of them play to the galleries in the West, and they think that by dissing India, that's what makes them more acceptable in the West. So as far as I am concerned, I have no use for them. So for example, even in the academic community, most of the people of Indian origin out there, pretend that they are very in, but all that they're talking about is India, and mostly in disparaging terms. And frankly, I don't care much for what their opinions are. I don't take them seriously. As far as the MEA is concerned, I think Kushal makes a very valid point, and that's not just true for what is happening in the US, but also for what's happening in Canada. Many of the kind of people who have been, in a sense, cultivated, or who have been, invited by the Indian mission in Canada as well, are very, very problematic people. And there is nobody out here who's taking a dim view of the kind of people some of these diplomats or lower staff are associating with. And I think that is something we should be worried about. But the simple fact of the matter is, as far as this Mamdani character is concerned, he will use every trick in the book which gets him votes, which is what he's doing. But there is another factor to it, which is that old style politics is also kind of running its course. It is not being able to connect with new voters, and it is not being able to find viable solutions to some of the more pressing problems. So you then get...
Absolutely. Suhail Seth wants to come in there. Suhail.
Navika, I'm still waiting to be heard.
Number one, it is the same... 1 minute, Sanjay, 1 minute. It is the same people who in the early 70s said Satyajit Ray's marketing poverty of India. Hey, these are filmmakers. Ab ispe bhi aap log objection hai. She has made Monsoon Wedding. She has made a film called The Namesake on Jhumpa Lahiri. Now, all of these are not about racism or interracial. My advice is, let's start taking a deep breath all over again. Zoran Mamdani is the Democratic Party's nominee. He is not the mayor of New York. Number two, Netanyahu will not be arrested by Zoran Mamdani in September because Zoran Mamdani will not be the mayor. A former cop who's now the mayor, Eric Adams, doesn't even have the brains to read a piece of paper, so he will certainly not arrest anyone. Number three, my advice, Navika, and you're a formidable person, is what you should do is run a quiz, and I will sponsor the first prize. Anyone who can guess the mayor of their city in 10 cities in India, we will give them a tour of Zoran Mamdani's apartment in New York.
Well, we don't compare apples and oranges, because
Navika,
it's more likely that Suhail said you will be in Manhattan sooner than I will be, and you will need to go to Central Park, so you better be worried about that. But Matt Kling, have governments run out of ideas on how to address the real problems? Is that why Mamdani has come in?
No, look, I mean, again, you can't attribute the primary election of a Democratic Socialist candidate in New York City and make that writ large that government has failed to address the concerns of the people. As we were saying earlier, is a low turnout election. The people that voted in this election, ironically enough, the people that could afford to pay for all this free stuff that Mr. Mamdani is going to distribute to the New Yorkers, are not going to be the same people that are going to vote in November of 2025. There will be a much larger electoral turnout, and there will be a lot more scrutiny on his record in a two-person race. So, I mean, look, Bernie Sanders has a definite following in the United States. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has a definite following in the United States. In their minds, they're saying that the United States has not addressed policies that they proclaim from every speaking podium that they can get their hands on, literally and figuratively. That being said, America is at its heart a center-right country when you look at how the population votes. So, again, New York City is not emblematic of the United States, just like Los Angeles is not, nor is San Francisco. What New York is emblematic of other big cities with failed governments like Chicago, where the mayor has a 6% approval rating, or Los Angeles or San Francisco. So no, New York is not a microcosm of the United States. New York is a microcosm of failed big city governments.
Well, we do hope so. We do hope so. Simply because Matt Klink, when we asked Indians and did a short survey, Zoran Mamdani's Vocasum, is that an insult to India? Majority of our viewers said yes. So clearly, we really don't care who's the mayor of New York. But if it is anybody who abuses India,
you don't
clearly
so long as
Indians don't
him,
like
right?
him. And they have a view on that.
No, I agree.
They have a view on that. Kushal Mehra, that's fair.
Yeah, of course it is. No,
yes, anybody who abuses India.
It's politics. I mean, look, ultimately it's a popularity contest, and just as people around the world dislike Donald Trump, there are people around the world who like Donald Trump. And look, I agree with what's been said generally, is that Mr. Mamdani is the nominee. He is not the official mayor of New York City yet. That's why we run these races, is that
you better pray. You better pray for that.
Under the spotlight.
You better pray for that. You're a Republican supporter. But Kushal Mehra wanted to comment.
Well, I think it's fair. Anybody can comment on anything. Mamdani can, say things like he wishes Netanyahu is arrested and stuff like that. He can call Hindus all sorts of names, or he can join rallies where Hindus are called literal slurs. That is Mamdani's choice. American free speech laws are very different. But Mamdani should know that, he will get it back with interest from the same Indians. Notice in his entire campaign, he's gone to every place of worship but a temple. He's clearly sending a message that he doesn't need to, speak with the Hindu community of New York. So that is a fair criticism of Mamdani. And listen, he's a irrelevant mayor if he becomes one of an American city. It has no bearing on American foreign policy, irrespective of what he does. His claim to fame till now is that violence is a construct. Anybody who thinks violence is a construct should be asked the next follow-up question. So does that mean, can I slap you? That should be a legitimate follow-up question to anybody who says, see, the problem is very
absolutely. If violence is what you live by. Sanjay, I'm completely out of time, but 20 seconds.
This is not fair, Navika. This is not fair at all. I mean, I want to make 2 points. I've been waiting for a long time. This is a lopsided panel. I want to make 2 points. I'm not a counsel for Zoran Mamdani, but I need to make 2 points because your people on your program have trivialized, and I'm still being interrupted. You
just cast aspersions.
I'm still being interrupted.
But you call the panel lopsided, they will hit back at you.
I'm talking about
my dear.
Why is Mr. Say taking it personally? I'm talking about the constitution of the panel.
There are 4 people. We will not allow you to speak.
Anyway, can I speak?
He's part of the panel.
Anyway, there has been a ridiculous...
Okay, all right. Calm down, Suhail said. Let him make his point. Freedom of speech. Yes, Sanjay.
Let me make 2 points here. Four of your panelists do not even know that the GDP of New York, that everybody here has in a very silly fashion trivialized, is equal to 65% of India's GDP. The GDP of New York is equal to 65% of the GDP, ladies and gentlemen. Do your homework before you come for the program. The second point, that as far as Palestine issue is concerned, to stand up for Gaza is not being anti-Semitic. To stand up for Gaza is not being anti-Semitic. And the right wing needs to take a deep breath, because they stand exposed today, because Zoran Mamdani has basically talked about Modi and Netanyahu in the same breath. So I can understand Suhail Seth is getting a little panicky and a little constipated, but that's his problem. Let him live with it.
Okay, Suhail, your name is being taken. Counter.
No, nothing. I'm just saying Sanjay Jha is normally very polite. Why is he calling everyone lopsided? Why does he believe that he is the repository of intellectual wherewithal? I could call him intellectually innocent, but I won't, because I respect him. To say that the whole panel is lopsided, that we don't know the GDP figures, But if you know everything, you keep yourself free on January 26th next year. We'll put you on an elephant in the Republic Day parade. ਹੋਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਰ ਲਈਏ ਬਈ? ਇਹ ਤੇ ਸਿਆਪਾ ਹੀ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ. ਸਾਨੂੰ ਗਾਲਾਂ ਪੜਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ.
Well, on that note, yes, Mamdani has become an issue that India's got involved in. Clearly, nobody in India likes somebody calling India names and talking about the largest community here, literally being a silent spectator when that community is being abused, and then making it all about one sector, one section of the population. Well, how free is that? How socialist is that? How equal is that? If you believe in the left ideology, equality should really be something you worry about. That really isn't something Mamdani knows the first thing about. Which is why, well, India is saying a thumbs down to him. Some individuals, of course, even find merit in the abuse of India. What do you do about them? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I leave that judgment to you. Thank you very much to all my panelists for joining me on debate number 1 on the Newshour tonight.